Spider-Man No Way Home is a certified monster hit, already having crossed the billion-dollar threshold at the worldwide box office. Given the state of the world and the movie-going landscape the past couple of years, few would have predicted that such a box office feat would be possible for a long time to come. But here we are. Spider-Man No Way Home managed it. A movie that was sheer entertainment, that gave the audience what they wanted, and that was void of any ideopolitical messaging, managed it. To many in the industry and the entertainment media complex surrounding it, that's a very bitter pill to swallow. One of these, the Forbes Scott Mendelson, found a way to rationalize the numbers by using Spider-Man's box office to prop up Marvel's Shang-Chi and Star Wars The Last Jedi. In this editorial, I will go through what he said and why it's thinly veiled deflection aimed at protecting the narrative, and one that doesn't stand up to scrutiny at that. On December 26th, Forbes Scott Mendelson posted his weekend box office update, and in order to ensure that it got the desired traction, he separately tweeted two main takeaways from it. The first one was that Spider-Man's immense success retroactively made Shang-Chi more impressive, and the second one was that it's a pure fabrication that everyone hates The Last Jedi. Somehow, Spider-Man proves everyone loved it the whole time. For how he reached these conclusions, one has to read the full Forbes article, which we did for you. In the article, Mendelson states, Sony and Marvel's Spider-Man No Way Home earned another $81 million in weekend 2, dropping 68% from its $260 million opening Friday to Sunday. That's a harsh drop of $171 million less than weekend 1. It's especially harsh for December, placing it closer to The Last Jedi, which dropped 67% from a $220 million debut, than to Rise of Skywalker, which dropped 59% from a $177 million launch. It is the second biggest weekend drop for the MCU, worse than Eternals, which dropped 62% from a $71 million launch, and worse than Black Widow, which dropped 67% from an $80 million debut. All three of the biggest MCU second weekend drops occurred in this year. You can blame COVID variables and differing expectations in terms of the theatrical window, and that makes Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings 54% drop from a $75 million Friday to Sunday opening even more impressive. So what Mendelson is saying here is that a movie which had one of the biggest opening weekends of all time, having a larger second weekend drop than this year's earlier MCU movies, is a testament to the success of Shang-Chi, because that had the smallest second week drop alongside the Eternals. Those two movies incidentally also had the smallest opening weekend box office of the bunch, but hey, that was in parentheses, so don't pay too much attention to that, I guess. Normally, I would agree that the first to second weekend drop-off is of the utmost importance, because it indicates word of mouth or lack thereof. But in this particular case, I think Mendelson might have underestimated the COVID variables quite significantly. You see, there's a new variant making the rounds. You know, the one that kind of sounds like a transformer. And in the past week, the political and mainstream media response to it has been,
We're gonna die!
Yeah, let's just say the public discourse might have influenced the box office somewhat. I submit the marketplace is worse for a big-budget movie right now than it was earlier in the fall, when both Shang-Chi and the Eternals were released. Case in point, Spider-Man No Way Home dropped pretty steeply in some international markets. Not because the audience didn't like the movie, but because they were open for business last weekend, while they were locked down by this weekend. If anything, a major takeaway here should be that Spider-Man's box office demonstrated how utterly abysmal both Shang-Chi and the Eternals in reality did, as Spider-Man No Way Home in its opening day outdid what either of them did in their opening weekends. And worldwide, Spider-Man is well on the way to outgross both Shang-Chi, the Eternals, and Black Widow combined, and it's doing it in a worse marketplace. That makes Spider-Man the real triumph, and Hollywood should take note that when you make a crowd pleaser the audience wants, the audience will show up for it. However, that is not what Mendelson chooses to take away from this. On the contrary, everything Mendelson said here was a long-winded way of casting shade at Spider-Man's success. Interestingly, this article, which you'd think would be about Spider-Man, is, when you get right down to it, all about protecting The Last Jedi instead. The challenge for Mendelson here, of course, is that even if you disregard Spider-Man completely, The Last Jedi still underperformed massively compared to The Force Awakens. But Mendelson has an answer for this, so in an article which should have been all about Spider-Man, he nonetheless managed to leer out, "The Force Awakens had a unique advantage in having its second Friday fall on Christmas, as its third Friday fell on New Year's Day. The Last Jedi took a big hit after its opening, partially because its holiday break period, during which kids were out of school and many adults had time off work, did not start until its second Monday. However, that No Way Home dropped about as hard despite an A+ cinema score and a week of 94% positive coverage, implies that audiences did not really sour on Star Wars The Last Jedi. Actually, it implies no such thing, no matter how much Mendelson may claim it. What Mendelson tried to do here was use the Spider-Man box office to prove that audiences didn't sour on The Last Jedi at all. It's all made up. Everyone really loves it after all, would follow from that. However, Mendelson's conclusion is false, because it's based on a faulty premise. Again, he is failing to take into account that the marketplace The Last Jedi was released into is quite different from the one Spider-Man was just released in. Also, the thing with The Last Jedi is that, like with Episode 1, it took a little while for audiences to digest what they had witnessed. The Last Jedi didn't fall 700 million short of The Force Awakens because of its second weekend drop, but because it kept on dropping steeply each and every week, and without there being any Transformers-sounding variant to help scare people away. Also, what Mendelson ignores is that outside of the box office, The Last Jedi marks the exact point where the arrow started pointing downwards for Star Wars. That's when merchandise sales tanked. It was after The Last Jedi that Solo flopped. It was after The Last Jedi that The Rise of Skywalker barely limped past $1 billion. Out of all of Scott Mendelson's bad takes, and there are many to choose from,
this could really be the big one.
Still, where Spider-Man is concerned, Mendelson has to begrudgingly admit that, with no concurrent live-action competition like Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle or The Greatest Showman, and no mainstream Oscar breakouts like The Revenant, Hidden Figures, La La Land, and 1917, well, No Way Home could still be leggier than the last two Star Wars sequels. So again, going the extra mile to protect the Star Wars box office at any cost here. Towards the end of the article, he also stated that Spider-Man No Way Home is already Sony's biggest grossing domestic movie of all time, and it's probably just a matter of time before it becomes their biggest grossing movie worldwide as well. So why not lead with that? Why this whole spiel about The Last Jedi? Scott Mendelson has long since been an avid fan of movies like The Last Jedi, movies that subvert not just expectations, but genre culture at large. Movies which are driven by a subversive ideopolitical narrative, and which places storytelling at a distant second priority. Spider-Man No Way Home had none of that, quite the contrary. Where The Last Jedi-like movies actively destroy the past and chide you for liking it, No Way Home celebrated its past. It didn't deconstruct, instead it added to the existing structure in a respectful way, retroactively making both the Sam Raimi movies, and especially the Andrew Garfield movies, better. And the audience loved it. The audience voted for more of this with their wallets, and that is the most powerful vote there is. for the powers that be who are into subversion and deconstruction, Spider-Man No Way Home proved to be a very unsettling referendum, and that is what we see in this article. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments.